Here with me now, Professor Mary-Anne Borrelli from Connecticut College to talk about the big presidential race tonight and also a focus on Congress. Professor, we just went through all 5 of the districts here, and I'm sure you heard a little bit ago the AP officially called Connecticut for Vice President Harris, but obviously it's going to take a while for other states to get called for most results to come in the race for the White House. But we know that a lot of people are watching those results, and we've heard from voters that when they look at Vice President Harris, who was attached obviously to the Biden administration, a lot of times they think all the things she's promising, well, why didn't those get done while she's been in office? We just broke down all the congressional districts. Tell us a little bit about why that can really impact a White House administration and what they're able to get done.
I think there's 2 things to remember, because there's a tendency to talk about the Harris administration. This is the Biden administration, and she was vice president. And as vice president, like any other member of the administration, she had certain areas in which she had considerable discretion and other areas in which it was important that she align and support the president. So in a Harris administration, she will be setting the agenda. It will be her priorities. I think the other thing that's important to remember is that as a vice president, she had considerable responsibilities with regard to the Senate. She was a former senator. So she's going to bring that legislative awareness and her policy awareness as a vice president into her own administration and create a new rhythm.
And so I do want to mention here, we're hearing that the AP has officially called the Senate race for Chris Murphy. That was sort of expected, leaning more toward him, but obviously, you know, this was impacting Congress's balance of power. We were talking about the House and the 5th district, but Murphy's Senate seat, the Democrats have a very slim majority in the Senate right now. So can you talk to us a little bit about how that balance of power can impact, you know, how the White House interacts with Congress as well?
It makes a huge difference. If you have a unified government, then you're able to put forward a policy and proposals, and you're negotiating with your own party to really secure the majority in the House and then the necessary supermajority in the Senate. But if you have a divided government, then you're immediately having to negotiate with a different party, and in these polarized times, the negotiations are very fraught. So how big, not just who has the majority and who has the minority, but how big the majorities are, it makes a difference.
And as you said, how big those margins are, but also, of course, what's going on in each chamber, because we've seen a lot of issues with this past Congress. We've heard from our representatives when I've spoken with them, so much of that deadlock in the House, and we're potentially seeing possibly, you know, the Republican House could flip to Democrat, while the Democrat Senate could flip to Republican, and they could be right back with, you know, these sort of crisscrossed wires. You know, are there any concerns for whoever ends up winning the White House going into the upcoming term next year, if, you know, Congress stays this way with both chambers under different party control?
It makes things much harder.
Okay.
Quite simply, and that's probably very obvious, but the thing is about it is that in the Senate you have the potential for a filibuster, and so you're always thinking about that 60 votes that you have to get, right? In the House, most things are done by a straightforward majority, 51%. So it depends on which House is going in which direction. The other thing that's really important is that they have different roles and responsibilities. So for the Senate, getting your judges confirmed can be very difficult if it's the opposing party, right? This has been right now the Democrats are working very hard to get all of Biden's judicial appointments through. And this is one of the things that Trump was particularly skilled at putting through with McConnell, a record number of judges put through in terms of their confirmations and subsequent appointments.
Well, Professor, thank you so much. We will be checking back in with you later throughout the night, but thank you so much for talking with us a little bit now.